A few days ago, Benjyfishy announced his retirement from competitive Fortnite. I'm going to talk about where he ranks amongst the all-time greats, what his future looks like, and whether Fortnite has a big problem if names like him are leaving the game. We've seen Fortnite retirements before. Some just faded away from the scene slowly, while others announced theirs more clearly, but this one seemed to hit harder. Or maybe it's just me because I've always been a massive fan. In pretty much every way we saw this coming. It was public knowledge that he was playing the game less and less over the past months, and for those of us not in denial, we were seeing the inevitable drop in performance as well. With duos as the game mode, there was a growing imbalance between the mindset and motivation of his duo Mr. Savage and himself, and at the very least I was expecting them to split up for this season. With Benji seemingly not in the conversation when everyone was finding new duos, it then came as no surprise when he released the retirement video on all his socials. Let's jump back a bit and talk about his achievements in the game and where he ranks all time. The story of his career has been told many times by other people, but I'll quickly recap. His Fortnite career really kicked off in 2018 when he started placing in the early tournaments at the age of just 14, which was too young to play official tournaments back then. He famously got his first earnings in a Montana Black kill race tournament, then met Mr. Savage when they were both landing at Pleasant Park in solos, and he was one of the many future stars of Fortnite who qualified to the 2018 Winter Royale finals, but couldn't play due to his age. We move on to 2019 when the age limit was lowered and he was one of the best players in EU for those first few months, placing top 20 in the Share the Love, Gauntlet, Scallywag, Blackheart and Lux Cups. A win in the World Cup qualifiers warm-up tournament solidified his tag as one of the favourites to qualify, and he duly did so in both game modes at the very first attempt. The World Cup finals placements were solid but not spectacular, finishing 14th in duos and 25th in solos, but the event was probably more significant for his growing worldwide popularity than for his finishing position. With 2018 Fortnite streaming dominated by older players such as Ninja, Tfue, Cloaksy and Myth, 2019 saw the emergence of younger Fortnite streamers, and Benji was one of the key figures at the forefront of this shift. The older streamers' skills were struggling to keep up with the young mechanical gods, so if you wanted someone fun to watch who still competed at the highest level, then Benji might have been your guy. This increase in popularity really hit a new high for him at the World Cup, with a thumbs up to the camera becoming one of the most iconic images of the tournament. After the World Cup, Benji was ready to dominate with the new FNCS competition providing high-level tournaments regularly. The first edition, with Mitro and Mongrel, gave us the most popular trio ever seen in Fortnite. They produced 3 wins and 2 second places in the 5 qualifiers, which is one of the most dominant runs we've ever seen. Unfortunately, it unravelled in the finals, but nobody forgets what this trio gave us. A second place in the following squad season was actually the best finish he would ever achieve in FNCS, playing alongside Mongrel, Nate and Wolfies. Early 2020 saw the first time he failed to qualify for a large tournament, with his duo FNCS season ending with failure to progress from the heats. The rest of 2020 was mixed, with some fairly average placements in the 2 solo FNCS tournaments, followed by flashes of brilliance in trios with Savage and Letchi, that ultimately ended in an 8th place while contested in FNCS Grands. 2021 had a lot of trio FNCS, with his best finish being 5th, but the highlight of the year was undoubtedly the DreamHack Online duos in October that he won with Mr. Savage. The wins were generally quite sparse through the year though, and he was no longer interested in solo gameplay. This continued into 2022, where some thought that a year of duos with Mr. Savage would really bring him back to his best, but the motivation wasn't there, and we reached the point last season where he was only loading up the game for tournaments, and now it was time to move on to things that he enjoys more. Okay, so after that quick recap of his career, let's make some arguments for his greatness as a competitor. You could look at his wins and consistent placements over a period of more than 3 years and claim that he is one of the all-time greats. There was a period of around a year in 2019 during which he was definitely in the debate for being the best player in the world at the time, or at least in the top 5. Since 2020, you'd probably say he's been more up and down, but he qualified for 12 out of 14 FNCS finals during that time, which is only bettered by a few players. Overall, he has 30 tournament wins logged on Gamepedia, and was only recently overtaken for the most PR of all time on EU. There aren't many players who have been around at the top for that long. If you see the players who qualified for the World Cup, there are only a small number who are still at the top today. He outlasted 90% of those players, so no way is his slow decline some sort of career failure. Most Fortnite players are at the top for a much shorter time than he was. But how about some shortcomings? Well, a lack of major titles is the big one. His biggest title is an online dream hack. His next best is a whole load of cash cups, invitationals and qualifiers. I know that most will say he was contested and clout farmed in a lot of big finals, but in the end your titles are what matters, and he doesn't have that many big ones. There are probably 10 players in EU who now have a better list of achievements than him. What I would focus on instead is his greatness as an icon of Fortnite. He may not have as many big titles as Tayson or Miro, but his influence on the game and its community has been far bigger than theirs. He is one of the most popular Fortnite players ever. There was barely ever a bad word said about him, and most would agree that he was one of the nicest pros in the scene. His influence in online culture might not quite have reached the crazy heights that Ninja and Tfue have, but in terms of the support he garnered for his tournaments, he might be the number one. He streamed most tournaments for over 3 years, to an average of 5 to 10k viewers, including many grand finals, and surely that puts him amongst the top 3 most watched pros over those years. So rather than trying to rank him on the list of greatest competitive players ever, I would instead just say that he is one of the greatest Fortnite competitive icons of all time. Is competitive Fortnite down in the dumps then? Well, we've seen a few big figures leave competitive Fortnite, like Mongrel last year and now Benji. I'd say it's not a massive problem at all. You probably won't find a single hobby that is dominated by teenagers that has a lower turnover at the top of the competitive scene than Fortnite. The prize money and contracts keep them there, of course, but if we lose a few players a year, then that's not a crisis, that's just natural turnover. There is always new talent emerging and new creators joining the scene. There are still top players who stream tournaments regularly, and yes, we'll miss Benji's personality, but Fortnite will keep going anyway, and we will find new players to be fans of. Let's finish up by mentioning what he's going to be doing next. He is going full steam ahead with Valorant at the moment. For now he's still learning and improving and not part of a pro team, but given his obvious natural talent at the game, I don't think it will be long before somebody picks him up if that's the way he wants to go. In the meantime, he's still pulling big numbers on Twitch, and he's now contracted by NRG as a Valorant player and content creator, so he doesn't even have to go the competitive route if he doesn't want to. In the end, it will be up to him to decide whether he wants to put in the serious time required to be part of a team or not. I hope you found my thoughts on Benji's Fortnite career interesting. Let me know down below how you would describe his contribution to the game. And as always, thanks for the support, and see you next time.